Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins. Thank you for having me in your home today.
Good morning.
Well, so for today, we're just going to talk generally about why I'm here, and hopefully after speaking, we can discuss some strategies moving forward that can hopefully, help you guys and help your situation. First and foremost, anything we say here stays here. I may have to share some information with my supervisor. Otherwise, the only information that I would have to share is any disclosure of abuse or intent to harm yourself or others. I am a mandated reporter, so I do have to report that. I am also recording our session today. That is only because it is our first session and I do not want to miss anything. And I want my sole focus to be on you guys. Is that okay? And do we have any questions so far?
No. Yes.
Yes, it is okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And no. And no
Just
questions.
Okay, just want to make sure we have consent here. Now, have you ever spoken with a social worker or been to any kind of therapy before?
No.
Okay, well, what made you decide to let me come here, basically? Well, I am taking care of my husband. He had a stroke a couple of years ago and needs to be cared for. I imagine our friends, our neighbors called your agency because of our ages. We are early and mid-60s. And just because, I am taking care of him alone. In what ways do you care for your husband? Well, I mean, I prep all of his meals. I do the laundry. I clean. I sometimes help him dress. With his stroke, the right side of his body is weak, so sometimes I help him dress. He also cannot get around without a cane or without my help, so I sometimes will help him get around. Because of the weakness on his one side of his body, I will also help bathe him. And certain foods that I make, sometimes I also have to help feed him, just to make sure all the food gets in the mouth. Okay, so you have taken on this kind of full-time caretaker role. How are you coping with that new role? Well, I mean, it can be physically tiring. I love my husband, but everything I do is for two people, and it can be a little tiring. I also do feel anxious sometimes at night, especially just because, so I don't really get much sleep. Just because I'm concerned for him and hoping that he's doing okay. And why do you feel such concern for him, especially at night? I don't know. I mean, he's a whole floor away. He has to stay on the main floor, just for his mobility issues. And I still stay upstairs. I'm always, wondering if he's okay and if he needs anything, just because, we're together all the time. At night is when, we're by ourselves, and so I just am concerned if he needs something. So I understand, that he has to stay on the main floor for his mobility issues. Have you thought about, staying with him on the main floor? And I just mean more to help ease your anxiety and help you get a little more sleep. Selfishly, I do prefer to stay upstairs, just because, while I do feel that anxiety for him being alone, it is also the only time that I get for myself, and it's, become my own space. And, I feel so selfish for saying that, but I feel like for in order to be able to care for him all day, I need to spend my nights alone. Doesn't mean I don't love you, but well, I am glad for you that you do have that time and space for yourself. You know, that's what's known as, you know, self-care, and that's super important, especially when you are caring for somebody else and you need to be on, you know, your game all the time when you're caring for someone else. Now, Mr. Jenkins, how are you doing?
Sorry,
It's okay.
Alright, good.
Okay. Why don't you tell me what you think I'm doing here? Or why maybe you think your neighbors called my agency?
Honestly, not too sure. I guess. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay. Like I said, that's kind of what this first session, this home visit is about, is just getting a feel for your guys' situation, and you know, see what maybe I can do for you guys. See what maybe I can do for you guys, and if there's any services that I can provide for you. Now, your wife did tell me that you have been more withdrawn and more reserved the past 6 months or so. Can you tell me anything about that?
Just rather be inside and be alone.
Okay. Why do you feel that way?
I can't. I really don't feel confident with my bowel movements.
With your bowel movements?
Yes.
Are you willing to share a little bit more about that with me?
I have to wear a diaper just in case.
Okay, so we're having accidents.
Yes.
Okay. Are you, just to, you know, because we want to make sure that we are mentally okay, but medically okay as well, and we're taking care of that end. Are we keeping up with doctor's appointments, and we have all the necessary doctors and everything? I mean, yeah. We go to our annual physicals. We go to the dentist and all that stuff. He's actually due for his annual checkup next month. But I mean, listen, once the weather gets better, he'll be fine. You know, it's just so hot and humid. He's just feeling down. Once it cools off a little bit, he'll be fine. Okay, I'm just making sure that we're taking care of, you know, the medical side as well, because medical and mental are both just as important. Now, Mrs. Jenkins, I want to revisit your anxiety, your concern that you feel. You said at nighttime, and you said that's because he's alone downstairs. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just worry that, you know, that he's okay, or that, you know, he doesn't need something. Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, your neighbor did share with me that you guys had a son and that you lost him a few years ago. Is that correct? Yes. He passed away 3 years ago. He had a heart attack. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you. It was just such a shock. I mean, he was in his late 30s. Like, that's just not, a heart attack is not something that you worry about at that age. And he was in perfect shape. I mean, didn't smoke, hardly drank. It was just such an unexpected loss and just such a shock. Do you feel that maybe the unexpectedness of your son's death and possibly even the unexpectedness of your husband's stroke have maybe led to you being more anxious about your husband, and maybe you fear something else unexpected might happen? I mean, I never even thought to connect the two, but yes, that makes sense. Like I said, just the unexpected tragedy, and then when my husband had his stroke, it just kind of took me right back to our son, and I thought I was gonna lose him. I fear the unexpected, and I of course just don't want anything to happen. That is completely understandable, and if you'd like, we can address this further, maybe in one-on-one sessions, if you would like, or if you think that would be helpful. Yes, I do. I would like that. I think that would be very helpful. Okay. Now, Mr. Jenkins, I do want to come back to you, and what you said about not, feeling confident in your body, not trusting your body. And is this just because of your accidents? Or is it maybe your accidents and your stroke? Both. Okay. Do you feel like having your stroke has changed you or changed your body?
Yes, physically, yes.
Okay. I mean, I definitely understand. I understand that, and from what I also heard, you used to be a very active, an active athlete, and it seems like maybe your stroke has kind of prohibited those activities. Is that right?
Yeah, I feel old and decrepit.
You feel old and decrepit. Well, let's do a quick exercise. It's called externalizing. I want you to visualize your stroke as a living thing. And imagine it standing in front of you. I know this is kind of out there, but just separate it from yourself and imagine it standing right in front of you. Is it telling you that you were old and decrepit?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now let's rewrite that story here, okay? Your stroke does not define you. It may have changed some things about you, but it does not define you. I think you would agree that there are many other components that make up who you are, such as you are a man, you are a husband, you are a father, you are a grandfather. I heard you 2 little girls. Those are all very important aspects of your identity. Your stroke may feel like it has taken up so much of your identity because it is newer, you had your stroke a couple years ago, and you see the effects of your stroke every day. But we wanna rewrite the story where the stroke is the main character, because you are the main character. The stroke is just one component of your story. Do you agree with that? Does that sound right? Okay. I just want to look at at it more positively, where, like I said again, where the stroke is not the thing that makes you. It's just one component. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you guys about your relationship. On a scale of 1 to 10, how connected do you feel to your partner? 7. I feel like it's a 10. I mean, we do everything together. Well, it actually sounds like you do everything for him by yourself, and feel more of like a motherly caretaking role, and your husband is more of a patient rather than, wife, husband, and partner relationship. And now correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Jenkins, but is that maybe why you might not feel as connected to your wife, is because of how you guys are not quite partners anymore, that it's more of caretaking for one.
Correct.
Okay. Now, are there any activities that the two of you do together?
We watch TV together. We have our favorite show.
I imagine there's not a whole lot going on when you guys stay in the house most of the time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I am thinking more of like activities that, you know, you're both physically able to do, but that's going to engage both of you and maybe bring you back to more, make you guys feel more like partners. Whereas again, you know, instead of the caretaker-patient dynamic that you guys have kind of adopted. When is, you know, if you can think back, is there an activity that you guys maybe used to do that made you guys feel more connected to each other?
We used to get coffee on Saturdays.
Oh yeah, that little, we used to go to that little coffee shop. We used to go every Saturday. We'd sit by the pond and watch the ducks and just hang out and talk. That was kind of how like we reconnected after, you know, a long week of work or something. And once our son was older, it became something just the two of us could do. Well, I mean, that sounds wonderful, and it sounds like maybe something that you might be physically able to do, or are we still worried about, you know, that loss of trust in your body? I mean, you did say that you wanted to. You've been wanting to stay home more because you were worried about potentially having an accident outside of the home?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is something, you know, that can definitely be addressed at your next doctor's appointment. And again, you know, how I was saying with the stroke making up who you are, the symptoms of your stroke also do not make up who you are. I have some techniques I'd like to share with the both of you, Mrs. Jenkins, especially for your anxiety. Come on. One of them is journaling. I don't know if you would be. Okay. Sorry. Dogs need to be let outside. Okay. Just some techniques that I think would help Mrs. Jenkins, especially with your anxiety. Journaling might be a good way to for you to have a space for yourself, because you said you have a physical space, which is your room upstairs, where that has kind of become your own, and maybe journaling can also become a space of your own, where you can just, you know, get out any thoughts or feelings, and a way to probably help cope with that caretaking that you've been doing. And we can also discuss, and maybe you can discuss this with your doctor as well, having someone come to the home to help you take care of Mr. Jenkins. For example, someone who is trained to help bathe him when he needs it, or help dress him, or even Mr. Jenkins, if you'd be willing for this as well. When you maybe do not feel like going out for lunch or something, maybe Mrs. Jenkins can go out for lunch just by herself. It just sounds like you guys can both do with some space of your own, but then have a space to come back together, where like we're talking about those activities, like for example going to the coffee shop together. We just need to get back those components of your marriage and your relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Another exercise or technique that we can practice is relaxed breathing, and it sounds so simple, but there are studies that have shown that where you just take a couple minutes, it's almost meditating, where you just take a couple minutes to focus on your breath and just let go of everything else around you. So if you'd like to try it just here real quick, let's breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 7. Okay? All right. And slowly let it out. Okay? The point is for that out breath to be longer, just to calm it, and it'll calm your heart rate as well. Another technique is for progressive muscle relaxation. And Mrs. Jenkins, again, these are more geared towards you, as you are feeling sort of anxiety, where, if you're even laying down or sitting down, you start from your head and go all the way down to your toes and just visualize every muscle group relaxing one at a time. And I also think that this will help you fall asleep at night. Or again, you can even couple it with the relaxed breathing as well, just to help calm your body from the day and, let go of some of those anxieties that you feel. So let's just recap real quick everything that we have talked about today. We have discussed Mrs. Jenkins' anxiety and potential roots of the anxiety. We have discussed Mr. Jenkins' stroke and symptoms, and how we feel about going out in public, and leaving the house. We have now obviously discussed some techniques to help maybe relieve that anxiety. We have externalized Mr. Jenkins' stroke and tried to separate it from yourself, right? We discussed your relationship and how connected we feel to each other. Excuse me. And an activity that the two of you can do together, just to kind of rekindle that connectedness and take on more of that, or let go of that caretaker patient role and get back more into the partner, husband and wife role. I mean, you guys have been married for over 40 years, right? Didn't I hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's a wonderfully long time. Now we want to maintain the marriage, right? And not, again, as I keep saying, and not fall into the, mother, child, caretaker, patient role. And that's where I also think that bringing in a professional to help Mrs. Jenkins take care of the house, or little things, anything that will help her get out of that caretaker role. And that's where I think that would help, and that would help your guys' relationship as well. Otherwise, do you guys have any questions for me? Okay, do we feel okay about, our first meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, now for our next session, as we discussed briefly, we can do some one-on-one sessions, me and Mrs. Jenkins, to kind of dig into that anxiety and, find some coping mechanisms with that. But I do urge you to try the techniques that I've just shared. For our next session, I don't think I'll see you before you go to your doctor's appointment. Obviously, I'm going to urge you to keep your doctor's appointment and be extremely candid, because you don't want to, I don't want to see you hole yourself inside because you don't trust your body anymore. You're in your 60s, but we're not in our 90s, right? We should still have faith in our body. So I want you to connect with your doctor about that, because we're going to try and get some independence back for you. And again, I think that will help get your guys' relationship and marriage back to equal partners. Okay? Does that sound like something you can do?
Yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I think this is a great starting point. I think we've talked about some great things today. And of course, if you guys ever have any questions, and next time we can really dive into more services that I would be able to offer you. And I will look into the in-home medical professional or in-home worker that can come in, healthcare worker that can come in and help you guys. I'll look into that, and we can discuss that more in detail next time. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me today, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.